just a second. Alrighty then. So kicking off the week, kicking off this second half of Spotlight, welcoming you, Florin. Super excited to have the upcoming discussion. You may introduce yourself a bit and then move on to some more questions.
Sure.
Thanks.
Hi everyone. Thank you for introduction. It's glad to be here. My experience, which was mentioned before, is split between telco and banking. I joined Orange since the beginning on the Romanian market at the beginning of 1998, and I grew up with the company from zero, practically bringing GSM in Romania in the late 90s up to it become number one in Romania and having 10 million customers. That was for me a kind of experience which I lived personally, to see how you build this kind of company and growing with more than 1 million customers per year. It's quite an experience. And then I joined the banking system, which I thought it was a pretty smart move, but it was in 2008, so it wasn't so smart. I joined banking with a couple of months before Lehman Brothers. My wife was not very happy for a couple of years with me, saying, why are you doing all this cool, even if after 23 or 30 years you are making this kind of move? You didn't see it. But it was interesting. Why? Because I joined banking when it started to change. So that it wasn't something which I foreseen, but it happened because of Lehman Brothers and the financial crisis put the banks in the position to change, to transform their business model and so on. And we are going to talk a little bit about these kind of moments in the market. And then I switched to digital business, and I took over the digital team in Raiffeisen. I was the first chief digital officer there. And then I joined 3.5 years BRD as chief digital officer. This is my current position. I'm chief digital officer in BRD, which is part of Group Societe Generale, which is an important financial group present on 60 markets and over all the continents. So that's it, just as a short introduction.
Yeah, the brief one. You were saying something about trends and spotting these trends that also startups could leverage. But I see that the common ground between you and the founders are these leaps of faith that the founders take, and
many
you took as well in your career.
Yes.
But before helping us to see the larger picture, because probably this is not too often and with not so many insights that you have available to us, speaking about how the economy moves, where should the next shift, the next paradigm, the buzzword could happen, and how can we take advantage of that. I was wondering, now that you introduced your cross-industry experience, when was the moment, maybe in banking, but also probably in telco, that you came across with this new age of companies, the so-called startups right now, which is on everyone's lips? Can you remember when that happened in both of the industries?
I think it was in banking, because for example, my contact was more with the fintechs, because startups could cover many other industries. But my deepest experience, let's say, it was with the fintechs. And I believe that this is also interesting, because if you look at COVID-19 and 2022, and still what we are living today is in a way something which drives change from time to time in the history of mankind. Whenever you have this kind of dramatic event on the market, it could be a financial crisis or This is more a sanitary crisis, and having this kind of distortions or big events, even dramatic events on the market, they really push people to be more innovative, to see clearly the needs to move on with some solutions. They see opportunities, they see something which is really important to tackle. And this kind of moments, if you look back also to 2008 financial crisis, you see that there are many companies which were founded during those years. And we are talking about neobanks and fintechs more and more after this kind of event, when there appear fintechs which we can do this faster or cheaper or better or in another way than your traditional way of banking happened in the last decades. And if you look at Revolut, at Monzo, and Number 26, and many other companies, think of appeared in Russia before Lehman Brothers, but still close to this, and many other companies, you are going to see that they are created in this kind of exceptional environment. Also, if you look at companies like Slack or Zoom, they are also created after this kind of moment. And I can't imagine how we, for example, work from home or right now having a conversation on Zoom, how it would have been done this if it happened 20 years ago or before the internet era. Definitely the situation would have been more dramatic for us in living our lives and doing job or making innovation and so on. So I think this is something as a silver line, if you look like. Today, for example, just a quick, I had a presentation with my colleagues from BRD regarding BNPL, buy now, pay later. And maybe we are going to touch also this kind of stuff as a trend. And the funny thing here is that the people say, okay, but this is more like consumer finance or credit card products which banks already have. The credit card appeared during the economic crisis since 1930. So this is, again, it's a kind of product which an emergency or a strong need creates on the market, and then it was evolved and so on. So even these kind of products which we usually use right now are created in this kind of environment. So from this point of view, I started to work with fintechs after 2008, 2009, and more in the last years. And now it's a different situation because there are more partnerships than before.
Okay.
So COVID-19 really pushed this relationship on another level.
Got it. To spark the conversation with the founders, just want to add that we are here to learn as much as possible from you about these trends and insights that we do not have access to, and can help founders whatever they're building, not just fintechs, but in any other industry that's affected or could be affected by what you say. And also, I bet that you have a lot to learn still doing these leaps of faith from the founders, and mainly from their challenges, and we'll get to that as well. But with your permission, speaking with the founders, if you want to carry on just a couple more moments from Florin to share with us some of the insights, some of the big movements in the market, in the economy, in the industry, so that you can position yourselves, whether in having an edge on that or having something to the risk even more in what comes next. We can do that, and then we move on to any questions, reactions whatsoever. Is it okay with you as well, Florin?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I will jump to some trends which I think they are common sense. If you look around the market, you could see it. But let's see my position being part of the banking system. It's like I could see them more clearly also in the way the banks are using them or internalize on working on these trends. And I think the first one, which is still here for more than a decade, is digital transformation. I believe that this it is not finished, not even near. We are talking about digital transformation for, as I said, for more than a decade in financial system. But I think that most of the banks are still in the process, and many of them haven't reached the middle of the timeline. So this, I think, it's still present and important and drives a lot of needs and the investment from the banks. If you look at the Romanian market, for example, in the last 2-3 years, most of the banks did mostly the same thing. So it's like there was a single strategy on the market, and the banks just shared that strategy among them. There is no secret, or there's no secret sauce or the secret thing on the market. So basically, the banks tried to transform, especially the front end, the digital sales, customer onboarding, the very basic stuff which makes a financial life. Yeah, it's since the customer is onboarding, lending, credit card, overdraft, insurance. We are talking about the top 8-10 financial products. And now most of the banks in Romania cover this. But maybe it sounds odd for the people which are not from Romania in the call that the Romanian market did this right now in the last 2 years. That's the way of evolution. Yeah, it just happened. Since last 2-3 years, most of the sales were in branches still in Romania, and the banks in Romania still had a big network of branches. This is starting to decrease. And another thing which I think is interesting is the fact that payments. So the payments is here as a trend for almost 25 years. And if you look at the fintechs, because we talked about them, they hit this area. First, they launched payments apps, and they took money license, and some of them launched some debit card, current account, customer onboarding. That where Revolut started, number 26, Monzo, they all started like this. Nubank in Brazil started with a credit card, Tinkoff because they want to make revenue from the very beginning, Tinkoff also with a credit card, but then they diversified. But the payments, I would say it's a historic trend which is still actual. And it's actual because also COVID-19 really pushed the customer behavior to walk away from cash, from physical using of the money. We are talking more about virtual cards, also not to use a plastic or something like this. Withdraw cash from ATM without cards, mobile wallets, digital wallets, payment using QR codes, voice-activated payments, contactless payments, peer-to-peer. So we have a plethora of use cases in payments. And right now, I believe the alternative payments tools make up more than 60% of the total of the payments. So we are talking about debit card and the credit card up to 40% and 60%. They are covered by alternative payments tools, and this is going to stay. It's going to stay also because if you look at the last year, the e-commerce, we had a boom there, yeah, because again of COVID-19, and the people just jumped to, and the merchants were there. This is the way BNPL really hit the market, because BNPL, buy now, pay later, it's practically integrating the e-commerce, the lending, the payments. So it's a clear case of embedded finance and how integration and network effect could work. And then we had this clearly a big boom, like Square buying Afterpay, Affirm making a deal with Amazon, Klarna getting another investment, which now they are more than a $30 billion company. So this is the way it's also driven about it was driven by the payments. I would say also that the investment and wealth management are really interesting, and the banks are starting to look at it, because this is another front where the fintechs hit. Look at Robinhood, eToro, even the investment part of Revolut, yeah, Coinbase. You see this kind of Wealthfront, Betterment. So there are many companies, fintechs, which say, okay, we can do this better for the user, cheaper. and we could make it work on big markets like United States, for example, Wall Street, and so on. So I'm not talking here about digital currency, especially because here it's still a soft subject for the banks, but the investment is still it's again a strong trend, and some of the banks which have business in investment banking are really here in a position to look at how the things could be done by by the fintechs. Also, I think it's interesting to see the platform and the low-code, no-code platform. And this is, again, something interesting for the banks because they are not good at developing fast things, okay? They are not so fast in building things from various reasons. Yeah, because of the legacy system, architecture, IT, and so on, okay? So we still have this legacy, and we are not so fast as other companies could be in building software, basically.
Okay, so the disadvantage in here can be used as an advantage for startups to actually come in and chip in with their technology and their fast,
exactly. If you could plug in with a solution, a front-end solution, or a service, that would be interesting for the banks, because right now, for years, they are after how quickly can I be in the market with this service. And if you look at the projects portfolio in banking, I don't think you could do anything faster than 1 year. You know, that 1 year it looks like the time currency in the banking system. You already start from there. If you want to make something faster, that's a big exception. So if you look at the whole process, RFI, RFP, architecture, security, deployment, and so on, that's the way it is. So whenever you have this kind of platform or this kind of product which could help you to be fast into the market, now the banks pay a lot of attention to this. And I would say here that look at how FinTech OS, for example, succeeded on the Romanian market, which is a Romanian fintech, delivered this kind of low-code platform, and they help multiple banks on the Romanian market to launch onboarding flow, digital sales flow like lending or insurance, and practically they have a sort of monopoly on the Romanian market if you look like how many banks are working with them. And you didn't hear about FinTech OS like 3 or 4 years ago. And the banks were looking for this kind of solutions at IBM, at MasterCard, at big players. And now they work more and more with this kind of player.
Also, so it fits in this backbone of technology to be embedded in legacy systems or with.
Yeah, and if just a quick comment here, the banks are more prepared right now to work with this kind of technologies because they have a more flexible middleware. They have more APIs. They have architecture based on microservices. So there are clearly pieces which were transformed from the IT point of view in the banks. So they quickly do a direct integration project with the front-end layer. If that product is more complex, it also has a databases. It has also its own security or the analytics and so on. Maybe things there could be a little bit rough because the banks also have this kind of technologies and could say, yeah, but I use this vendor or I have this IT or security architecture. But if you look at a pure layer, a front-end layer, a direct integration project, you can do this faster right now than 5 years ago, when the middleware was still at the beginning and you have to plug in with all sort of monolithic system or core banking, which is still a monolith and so on. So this is a little bit better. And I would say just another thing, which is the SME, because historically banks underserved these segments of customers. So they pushed on the private individuals a lot and the corporate, but SME were somewhere in the middle. and they lost in this kind. They didn't have the same attention from the big players. And here, if you look at the market, also the fintechs really exploited this segment, because right now I believe, if I saw some figures on the market, that they serve 30% of the segment of the SME segment right now is covered by fintechs. So it's 1/3. It's a big number. I think it's bigger, for sure. It's bigger than on private individuals. And if you look, for example, you have Tide in UK, 300,000 companies, or you have Holvi in Finland, 200,000 small business, or Conto in France, almost 200,000, or you have Starling or Revolut, which I think they announced like they have 500,000 business accounts using their products. So they are really big numbers here. Exactly. And this is here also, I think it's something to see an opportunity. So yeah, just few of them, let's say. There are many others, but I think this
something that ties specific to the technology that spans across the industries, because as I see in the screen, there are solutions tackling the health segment, the legal segment, the development and developer tools segment, investment, education, and so on and so forth. So probably something that relates to the technology in general that you see in the market as a trend.
Well, not really. Anyway, if you say a technology, or if you're talking about API, you say that this is the moment. Everybody is working on it. Even if the APIs are not here for the last, are a new technology, you could find it like 10, 15, or 20 years ago, and still the banks used in a way, but not so, let's say, not so at this scale. Also the PSD2 and open banking really helped in this direction, because push the banks to be in the position to open their services, or some of their services, by being consumed by the customers or by developers or by other businesses. So the level of integration definitely is higher than years ago. And in order to be there in this kind of network effect, you need a couple of things. Definitely, you need the IT layer, because without technology, without architecture in this field, or the right capabilities, you can't do anything. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that having the business vision in the big companies, meeting the right people which have this kind of vision and could say, yes, I see value in making this partnership. This is also really important. And this is also related to the culture. We are talking about culture of change at the consumer level, at the big companies level, and so on. So, and this definitely is really important. But it's also important to have the right play field. And we have like at the UL level, regulations, national bank, and so on. So they are all pushing to a kind of integrated SEPA environment. So you are going to see more and more regulatory acts in this field, pushing the banks, the fintechs, and so on to work together. So it's not going to be only a laissez-faire business. Everybody or whoever wants to do something, do. No, we are going to be pushed also by the regulations to find a way together, because it's beneficial for the customer.
Got it. I would flip the coin to any of the founders that are already here to chip in with their question, concern, maybe even some trends that they spotted to contribute to the conversation so far before we move forward. Some of them, I look at Kenneth from New Credit, Siwana, are the usual suspects of the fintech, so-called fintech space, but some others as well. For example, SenseTask or BitScout or Microtica, they are the ones to be probably integrated or potentially integrated with clients from this space as well. So feel free to jump in with any question, concern, reaction so far, guys.
Ask a question. I know I'm not a typical target. Sorry, can you hear me well?
Go ahead. Yeah, Florin. Now we can hear you.
First of all, thank you very much for the intro. Very helpful. I would like to ask a question about ESG. Is this because I see it as a trend, you know, given my past in fintech and so on, I see it as a trend. And how do you see ESG and regulation, and if you see, let's say, opportunities unfolding here for fintechs in this space, you know, to work closely with banks in this area?
Well, thank you for the question. This is also interesting because when and definitely you have already the experience. I'm just pointing out is that when you work with a group or a financial group, okay, you could have multiple layers of access. You could work directly on some market when you have a kind of business that there is a subsidiary there, which is a retail bank, an investment bank, some kind of organization there. And you could think about maybe this is going to work with me, it has this kind of value opportunity, or you could go to the headquarters, meaning to SG in France. And there you could have a different level of access because there are local vehicles and there are general vehicles. And if you look, for example, to the corporate venture capital SG, this exists as a company at the SG level, and they invest directly in fintechs. This company exists for 3 years, and they have in portfolio like 30 startups, a couple of names like Trezor, Shine, Lemonero, Finbrix, and so on. And the level of investment is definitely higher than any subsidiary could support. For example, they invested since 2015 till now, because they started in a way to invest before creating SG Venture Capital, almost more than 200 million euro in fintechs. So you could have, let's say, and also if you look, it's not only about SG, you could find many other financial groups on the market which have this kind of governance. Let's say you could try to work with a bank on some country, or you try to go to their most developed, let's say, vehicle to work with fintechs, and they have a bigger budget, and they have an incubator or a fintech programs, or they play on different markets and so on. Also, it's interesting to see that the way this could unfold is that if you go to work directly and to start with a bank, you say, okay, I'm that fintech. What do you have here? How can you have a partnership? Definitely, maybe on some occasion, it could be interesting, but most of the time, probably is not, because you don't know very much about what that company has as a need, what part of the business is not covered, what is there when some technological decision weren't made. So you need some knowledge, so know-how about that company. If there is a part of the business which is not covered, is there a need, is there a budget, and they are looking for some kind of partnership. When you go at the group level, they could have this kind of overview all over the group, because they could say that we have this kind of needs in Africa or in Europe or in Romania or in Russia. They have a kind of chart of the areas which they are looking for which they are looking for different partnerships. And even when they start some public events, incubator and so on, you'll see that there is a subject or two there. This year we are going to focus on RegTech, or on wealth management, or on SME. Because why? Because they know that on some markets they have this need.
Mm-hmm.
you know. So they are not fishing anymore. They are not doing pure investment. They are not saying it doesn't matter what my company needs. I have some money, I have some capital, and I'm looking for some companies which could have success, and I want to invest in them. For most of the at least for the most financial banks, financial players which I know, they are not working like this. They are inside out. They are saying, I have this kind of need here and there, or this lack of knowledge or skills, and I'm going to use this vehicle in order to test the market and see if there are some fintechs there, which if they have success, they are going to help me.
Maybe Florin, can you also say a bit about what you do, just to add more context to you, the same, and then please go ahead, Ciprian. Can you hear us now, Florin?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, just to leave it on the board, you know, like, so we know each other better by the end of this call.
Okay. We're an energy analytics platform. So what we do is we develop machine learning models that deal with large data volumes in energy markets. That's what we do in a nutshell. And previously, I started a fintech company that builds a simulation environment for people in trading and investment. And by the way, my company worked with SocGen in Romania, with BRD on the risk and compliance mandatory training program. So that's about it.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question? I'm sure it will be interesting to others here as well. So from your answer, this question came to mind. What would you say is the best approach, you know, when engaging with a bank? The top-down approach, going to the headquarters and then learning about various needs in various areas of the world where the bank is present, or you know, the bottom-up approach, start in a let's say in a smaller market like in Romania, and then you know, build upon and leverage the successful projects that you deliver in that specific geography. Which would you say is the best approach for a startup?
I'll do it both. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why. Definitely, if you have already a company there in one country, you have the experience there. Definitely, you know the market better there because you work there, and you could have better networking and know some people on the market, or having some right kind of connections. You are going to go there, yeah, because it's easier, yeah. But as I said, you could miss the big picture, and I will do it both. I will do it also going to the headquarters, or any kind of governance company which has something to do with the innovation or startups and so on, because as I said, they also have the view for other markets, and maybe it's not Romania, it's Czech Republic. I don't know very much about what are the needs of commercial banca from Czech Republic, but I do know that they are more evolved, more developed innovation than other banks in the group, and they have more fintechs partnership than other banks on the group. Or maybe they are going to tell you something which is happening in the north, where we have a different kind of organization, or in Russia, or it's Africa, or it could be also on the other markets. That's why I would go to the both. At the same time, it's a little bit unfair for you, and this is something which I miss. I think it's a miss for the big companies. We are not very transparent all the time about our needs. And this is a bad thing, because it's not a sort of secret, you know. It's not like if I'm going to tell publicly that I'm looking for SMEs or e-commerce or insurtech or capital markets, the competition will hear about it. Okay, BRD is looking for this, maybe they're not so strong here, or maybe they are going to make a move here, or something is getting out in the market. I don't believe very much in this kind of, let's say, competition advantage, because as I said, everybody does practically the same thing. I mean, there is no secret strategy here. Everybody is trying to digitalize the front end. clear and plain and clear, to make a sort of digital banking for the main core services. But for the fintechs or for the possible partners, it's not always transparent. I'm going to BRD to talk about data. Do they have a strategy about data? They already have a data lake, or they made some partnership, maybe with a big player, with SaaS and so on. And this kind of information could be helpful. It's not always transparent, and that's why it's part of the market to come after the banks, unfortunately, many times, and just knock. How are you doing here? What do you need? How can you help? Can we help you? And so on. And this kind of discussion, that's why I'm saying it's better to have whenever you can, because you are going to learn something about that company, about strategy, and if it's meaningful for you to keep spending time with that company or not, or saying, okay, they made some decisions there, or they are not going to do anything in this field, and I'm interested in this field.
Got it. Thanks for sharing, Florin, and thanks for the question, Florin. It's strange that I'm saying it twice. Saw you, Ciprian. You can take on from here if it's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Florin. I'm Ciprian. I'm from SenseTask. So we process documents using artificial intelligence. My question is sort of related to last question. So like comparing the smaller market like Romania to a bigger market like the Western European or US, it seems to me that financial institutions here in the smaller markets are taking sort of like a more conservative approach of adopting startup projects or startup like companies, right? In implementing, integrating in their infrastructure. Now, in our case, we started with Romania, right? With the invoices, we process Romanian-based documents in the first phase. So we have now sort of a dilemma. Now it's pretty hard to you as a startup in Romania or in a small market in general to sell directly to a financial institution. Now, my question is, would it be better to sort of like partner with a bigger platform like an RPA or sort of like a fintech platform and try to partner and sort of like penetrate that wall you were talking about, the not visible wall, or is it trying sort of like the direct sales approach?
Okay, good question. Well, as a quick answer, I think, okay, definitely it's about your objective. Yeah, because if you look at even if at the situation the banks are right now, we'd like to think, I'm just making a small comparison. We like to think that we still own the customer. We still own the direct relationship with the customer. But there are many situations and many contexts which we don't. Even if we like to think that we are the main player there, and we like to think that we sell directly with the customer. And if you look at the digital wallets, we are not. There is written Apple Pay or Google Pay or Amazon or something else, you know? So even for the big players like banks, it's a kind of shift, understanding that sometimes we are going to be in the front end and in the face of the customers, and other times we are going to be somewhere on the value chain. But as long as you are still on the game and still having a kind of supporting the value to the customer, it's good for you because you are part of the network. This is also internet, this is web, and so on. You still are there. And if you are still in the market, you know, still being part of the chain of value, you are going to find a way to make money or to make more services or to learn something being there and being part of the service. Now, if you look at the way the banks are working, definitely the banks are, as you said, still conservative, and they are still checking some things when they are getting in a relationship with a fintech, let's say, or with a startup, because we are looking for more mature or proven solutions. We are still doing this. So we are still looking for solutions which could scale up, with not only to make an isolated implementation, but if we could make use of that solution, of that partnership, to check other things also, making from that partnership not a pilot or a POC or a test, but a partner which could offer to that bank the value for multiple services or multiple segments of customers. So that's why they are looking, and also Societe Generale is looking, as I observe, for more solid or mature fintechs or startups. Therefore, in this respect, definitely it's going to be harder for you to get in a relationship directly with a bank as a business and not as some sort of test and fail and this kind of scenario, which is not very productive, because even I don't like, and I'm telling you that I don't like very much this kind of situations, because I feel the people around me that they are not serious about it. When they say this is not going to be something which is going to break the bank or bring $1 million, but let's test and try. When it's a kind of game, it's a kind of play. But if we go with that to the IT, to the production, to the security, and so on, they are going to tell you that, but we are doing this because we have so much to do with other businesses, with other providers, which brings more value for us, and we don't have time for that. So there is not so much or room to make this kind of partnerships. Therefore, I'm inclined, definitely the decision is yours, to try to have a network of fintechs or partnership with a bigger fintech, which have clearly a bigger chance to work with a bigger player.
Yes, thank you. You answered my questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead, and then Kenneth will take over with another one. Yeah.
It's mostly to Cyprian. Well, we're kind of in a similar situation where we go via channel partners, and our solution is a plugin to project management tools. It's not we don't position ourselves as a standalone system. So I would highly recommend you, Cyprian, go via RPA and find integrations, because it's a simple math. So you have via RPA, you have access to all RPA customers. And if you look at their AI center, it's totally sucks. It's like they have integrations like, I don't know, maybe 30, which is anyone can find those in Amazon recognition. So they basically don't have intelligence there. Right. That's what I'm trying to say. So you have an advantage. And because just another comment, UiPath or RPA, whatever, or business process automation system like Brighter or something, they are interested in working with you because the value of the platform doubles if they have something more intelligence on top, and they will help you with getting in front of the customers. They have partnership programs, so it's really working really well.
Yeah, it's a big decision as a startup. Like, you have to do it early. It seems like you have to start with some direct sales, get some feedback, but at one point you just have to leave it and go.
It depends on but it depends on your LTV versus CAC. So we realized this running an experiment. So I found clients myself, and then I closed them. Then I calculate how much time it costs. Then I went through partners, calculate how much it costs me, how much clients and then I just ditched the cold stuff. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. Because with partners, I talk with one partner and they talk to 100 clients at once.
Yeah, but in the case of banks, it seems like you're going to have the same problem, because you're going to get evaluated even if you come through like a partner channel or like part of an ecosystem. You're still going to be evaluated as a startup.
This will happen, but you shorten the time to get to the evaluation.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Great add-on. Thanks, Ilya. Kenneth, would you want to take over with the next one? And feel free to jump. jump on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Andres. Thank you, Florin. Thank you for the summary. It was very articulate, summarizing the whole scene of fintech. My questions to you actually, when would be the best time to approach to the banks for partnership? Because according to our experience, I actually pitched to Barclays, ING, Standard Chartered, myself, and when we were very young as a company, and there were so many stakeholders from the banks. When we pitched to the innovation manager, and then we got a no from the the business manager, which is the SME financing, part of the business. And when we pitched this SME financing part of the business for the banks, the innovation managers say no. You guys are like kicking the balls to each other, to say no to startup for most of the time. I mean, this is maybe not from your bank, but from the other banks across the world. And I think there's something that from the banks, there's a kind of criteria that you guys are ticking the boxes, whether this company is big enough, would that be any risk to work with this startup at this stage and stuff like that. When would be the best time for the startup fellows here to pitch to the banks in order to save our time and our resources, because that we are not rich as you guys, and we can't just wait for your answer for 1.5 years and then do nothing, right? So but for our company, we actually managed that. We switched to work with small private credit lenders, and we're going to launch something with Coinbase very soon as a lending platform. So I just want to understand, because especially ING, I would just give my some of our experience. We talked to the Dutch team in Europe. They say that, oh, we have already got a lot in our plate, for trade finance. I'll send you to the Singaporean team. And then the Singaporean team say that, oh, this is the headquarters stuff. It's just like kicking the ball to each other,
Yeah.
Could you brief Florin on what New Credits does? Just in brief.
Yeah. So we are trade finance marketplace, connects SMEs with global lenders. Doesn't matter they are banks or corporate lenders, and we offer the deal flow management platform for the lenders. So we provide the leads to them, as well as offering the integrated credit data analytics solutions and the blockchain infrastructure for the lenders. I know the banks don't need the blockchain because you guys already have your own infrastructure, but we provide leads as well, because we recently worked with ByteDance for the TikTok or the equivalent platform for the e-commerce sellers, as well as pretty soon we'll be working with Amazon for lending partners program. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Just a little bit of longer answer, because I don't have the specific recipe
checklist.
Yes, but I'm going to have a little bit of longer answer. Part of my job here in BRD, but also in Raiffeisen, is to meet with technology companies, with the fintechs. This is what I do. Okay, and it's not something like I have something I have to do as part of, okay, Florin, you have to meet with 10 companies every month, and this is your appraisal, and so on and so on. I don't have a program. I don't have a budget behind me, so I'm not working like this. But I meet with companies because I learned that my colleagues from business don't always know what they want or what they need. It's not very clear 100% all the time, like a shopping list, this is what we need. Now go into the market and find this and bring it to us. It's not happening, at least in my case. So they don't know really well what they need. But I know the business, I know the technology, and I could do the match. So sometimes this is the way it happens. And I meet with 10 or 11 or 15 companies, and then some of them are interesting for education of the people from IT and business, saying, okay, it's a good solution. I don't know if I have the budget or I want to do that, but I'm going to think about it, and maybe next year, and so on. And maybe they are going to meet again with them. But with 2 or 3 of them, they wanted, yes, this is what I'm looking for. Let's look at it. But even then, they are not making a deal, because in order to make a deal, you have an internal procedure. you need an RFP, you need multiple offers, you need negotiations. So it's not a direct negotiation. It's not happening like this. And when it's happening this, and you start an RFP, okay, other companies are coming from the market, and you can win or lose. So, but hey, it's a fair game. You are there. You at least heard about it, and so on. Now, if you look at how the big groups and the local companies are working, you could meet with two kinds of people. You could meet with people which do have a program there, an innovation program, an investment program, some sort of a vehicle with budget, people, objectives, and so on. And they scan the market, and they have the right people to talk with you, and they understand the business and the technology. And they are definitely more open to talk with fintechs and startups. But then after they say, okay, this is interesting, let's bring that company in our portfolio. Now they have to bring that company inside the organization. And there you are going to find the second type of people you are going to be in contact. They are the P&L owner, the decision makers, the people which know a lot about their products, about their customers, which have the objective, the business objective, the next quarter, the sales, the revenue, the costs, and so on. It's a different kind of manager there. They know something about innovation, about what the market is making, but they definitely know more about their products and about the direct competition, not so much about the rest of the field. And there the friction starts, because those people trying to push that fintech inside the organization on a market and so on, then they have to sell that fintech. They have to make the connection. But you are still inside the organization. You could say, hey, it's a good step. I'm not more outside 100%. I started to play the game inside the organization. And then you have to find the right people, which maybe those people from the program are going to help you or not, or just jump you, throw you inside the organization, make calls and so on. And you are going to find a different experience. So I don't think it's the right moment, let's say, when you have this kind of discussion. For me, at the last moment, at the last point, the decision maker is the one you want to convince. It doesn't matter if you enter in that organization outside from the market or from a group program. Okay, maybe it could help you a little bit if you are part of the group program, because they are going to facilitate some discussions, are making some calls in your place. But at the end of the game, you have to convince some decision makers. And those decision makers are very pragmatic people, have very clear from the operation point of view what they need and what they have to do. So it's going to be not such an easy discussion there, because you have to check, as I said, security, technology, many things. So my long story short, if you get there, definitely you would like to know more about what make a good deal for the company. What are those criteria ahead of being there? So you have to prepare yourself from the technology and regulation and something else, GDPR, data security, and so on, to be in the game at that moment, to have the occasion to strike a partnership with that company. So definitely you are going to be more mature as a company. Definitely you need to invest more money in order to fit in for that kind of partnership. And you need people which are more than, at least from my experience, definitely is not the whole market. You need people who know how the big companies are working. It's not to have this kind of discovery process during the way, having somewhere in your company which really knows how those people are thinking and how these companies are working.
Thank you so much, Florin. Pretty helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all. Yeah.
Thanks, Kenneth. I saw you again, Ilya. Jumping back to the thread.
Yeah. Like a small comment to Kenneth. So if, or maybe to everyone, we were also thinking like the sales cycle of to sell into large enterprise is very big, to bank is even bigger. So, but one of the strategies that I was advised, and it's a very good strategy, is to hire an enterprise sales manager fully on commission, and let him work whatever time he needs to work on that, and he'll just get a very big commission from if he closes the client. This is one of the strategies that can be used because he's not on your sales, or he's not on your salary. He's a pure commission based, and there are people who do that, okay, in their spare time, and it can be an option, okay. So, and I have a question to Florin, because
did you want to add something, Kenneth? I just saw you. It would be definitely easier if you turn on your cameras, even if you need to do something else and you will jump off the screen at some point. But otherwise it's confusing. I don't know exactly. Yeah,
it's a bit inconvenience for me because I'm currently with
Go
my
ahead.
baby, you know. Just
no worries.
yeah,
no worries.
yeah. So a bit difficult. Yeah. I would just say thank you for Ilya as well, like the recommendation, because we actually have someone doing this as well for the enterprise sales managers, because that's how we can, you know, speak to Amazon and Coinbase, you know, because they know what they need, and actually these guys are actually ex-employee for this from these two companies.
Yeah.
So that's make it much easier. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
This is a good strategy. Yeah. It's a very good talent strategy. Yeah. So if you want to sell somebody, hire from that ex-employee from that company. Yeah, that's very. I have a question to Florin, because Florin has a very interesting background combining telecom and fintech, and I have a question really around that. So first of all, I'm Ilya from BitScout, and we help project managers double their productivity by automating repetitive tasks. And but one of the things in our platform is basically we are focusing on automating tasks that are related to work, not just tasks, but some things are related for work that people do in the real world. And one of the functionalities in our platform that will happen later is gamification. So let me give you an example how it will work. So if you worked in Orange, and I was working in a telecom vendor in Nokia, and we had a problem. We needed lots of images of base stations to build a computer vision system. Okay, so you need lots of images. There is no straightforward way to collect that, because if you try to run a project, that creates lots of bureaucracy, and you will spend 1 year just creating a project so people take photos of the base station. So the idea how our platform will be used in that scenario is that you can create in our platform a task, which is take a photo, and then attach an algorithm that will check the photo and then attach a reward, a token. And I would say not one token, I would say 58 points. And then I will connect that token to enterprise reward system, which probably Orange has, and lots of enterprises have. They have all these reward points that you convert into Amazon stuff. And then I kind of create a financial solution inside the companies. I'm not a bank, right? But I create a financial solution where people do extra work on their choice, but they get paid in tokens for real work, and they can then transfer these points into whatever thing. So my question would be to you is if you can play a bad cop in that scenario and tell me why it's not going to work.
Post-mortem.
Yeah, like why it didn't work. So I can tell you, just to add more details. So I think the first thing is like why people would do that. So I tested that because motivation is very important. Okay, so what I did a very simple test. I had to collect the photos, and for Mobile World Congress, so to present a computer vision solution of inventory recognition. Okay, so we needed that to recognize inventory, competitors as well. So what I did is I had a forum in Nokia, you have engineering forum, when I wrote like, guys, I need photos of base station of that particular 4G configuration. If you send me 1,000 photos and I qualify them, I will give you an Amazon 15 euro Amazon card. So I had to go, so the response was so good, so I had to go and ask for extra budget to send more Amazon cards. So that's not a problem with the motivation. I know engineers really well. So my question is why it won't work.
It didn't work, or it won't work.
It won't. Why it won't work? Why the whole scenario won't work? Why? So because
find something fishy about the case.
Find something fishy in my idea. So it's
Based
a
on
vision.
your experience,
okay. Yeah, because right now we're building something before that. It's an idea. It's an idea of working exchange inside the company for extra tasks, not for real work, but for extra, where you can launch any extra work. For example, you have salespeople, field sales reps going to different locations. And for instance, I know that there is a very interesting problem that Google does not have all the addresses. And then what you can do, you can create a task, which is validate an address. If you go to a villa kind of, not a city, but to a more smaller dwelling where you have villas, not always you have a correct address in Google. And that's important for sales. So you can create a kind of a task. Go there and go to those addresses and confirm using a photo that they exist. And you get €5 for one confirmation. Okay, that's an extra work. And what I created is a work exchange. So why it won't work? So that's the question to you.
Well,
if you can spot something,
ask me questions. I will clarify. Don't worry.
No, my first question is, how did you start with that? You start from what? You just wake up in the one morning and say, okay, that could be interesting, or you just walk around?
No. I spent years of
Jesus, serious?
Thinking about. Well, it was not the connection was not so direct. So I spent years in the problem of collecting data. I was building innovation solutions for Nokia for many years. Okay. And I've built a lot of stuff. They were all my own ideas. But then this one was a systematic problem. So over and over in lots of things, I meet this problem. And this problem is that anything in real world is too long to validate. So if something even simple happened, like a photo of the base station, it's a very simple thing, but it takes too much time to validate because you need to look at it. And that's why nobody is building something really fast in that. And so I spent lots of times investigating this thing. And at the end, I came up with this concept. It's I just want to, because fintech, and I am creating, if you think about that, I'm creating a secondary payment solution inside the company because it's based on blockchains and no fishy things about here. I'm not going to use it as a standard point system because you can rig that thing. In our software, and it works. I have use cases. So in our software, the token is so everybody has a wallet. So if you don't want to do extra work, so you don't want to take photos of addresses or whatever thing, you don't do that. You don't have a wallet. Nobody, that's okay. But if you can, you have a wallet, and that's very important. In engineers, they won't trust that you will give them Amazon card. That's very interesting.
Well, let's do so. I'm going to think about it. I'm writing here my email address, and let's connect, and I will think about it. You know why? Because it's interesting.
Yeah, maybe you can connect with something that you've seen working or not. Probably this is something that would help Ilya right now.
Yeah, because you see, it's for many people, it's too much things to digest at once. If you just think, I am creating a financial extra work AI blockchain based system inside the corporation. It's I already lost in the second sentence.
No, it's okay.
But you have this connection because there is another insight that I know in my experience, and you probably know it from Orange. So there is already existing a financial system inside large corporations. Yeah. Because they have to do this work time registration, and they have internal cost centers. So basically are companies, and you transfer, it's not money. I would call it reporting efforts. but I can convert this into real system with that thing because it's work that I can validate and I can pay for it immediately. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a funny thing about problems, solutions, and so on. And the funny thing is that, which is something I observe personally. Also, again, I mentioned BNPL today, buy now, pay later. And the thing is that innovation is sometimes a repetition with a twist. It's something which is already there, but at the end of the process, you change something like a code line or something, and then everything changes. And the people are saying, "Oh, but I know that, I saw that solution, but it's not the same," And this kind of stuff is happening all around us, and it's really interesting. But at the same time, the funny thing is that not everything new or not every problems is so serious to be solved. This is also important. This is also important, because there are problems we are used to live with them. They are not so serious. We are not willing to pay for them. We say, okay, that's all right. I'm okay with that.
Yes. Just to add on that, because I also investigated that thing as well. So sorry, I should have explained that I come really prepared on that thing. So you're right. Now I could only make a test, a simple test, if people are willing to take extra work for something extra, for extra reward. Because my understanding was that in large corporations, people only do what's required. Even though it takes them 5 minutes to do that, they will still record an hour. So I thought, okay, what do they do the rest? Well, basically they slack off or whatever. Like and nobody can do, you cannot do with that because it's a very abstract, like engineer. You sign an engineer to do a commissioning of the base station. Like it should take probably 8 hours or a couple of days, whatever. But if he can do it in 2 days, he won't tell you. He will do it in 3 days. He's not a moron.
That's right.
Okay. So then I thought, okay, if this possibility exists, like what it will take them to do extra work. And I tried to do it just telling them, okay, I have a great idea, guys. We're going to do like amazing things, and it doesn't work. They don't give a shit, Sorry. So what I did is like I created this extra reward. Okay, so it's something extra, because then the challenge is that I cannot interfere with the real work. Okay, so like if you interfere with real work, the managers will start, okay, guys, it ain't gonna work because my people are not doing what they're supposed to do, what they're paid for.
Sure.
But that's kind of like a secondary thing. So with the interesting thing about motivation here is that if you look at any statistics in telco across anywhere, 87% of people are disengaged.
Okay.
It's like they hate what they do every day. It's a very kind of scary thing, but it's true, and it's happening every year. Now there are many reasons for that, like bad managers, whatever. But also there is a reason, like if you do something, you should get paid or rewarded for that. And giving people software to make that happen really fast and fair, which is important. Like lots of tools, they don't realize that it should be fair. It's very difficult.
I agree.
So solves that problem. So I don't think maybe when you, I will send you some examples on the email and you will see how it works.
Okay.
But I think my challenge is that I'm creating a secondary financial system, technically. And that's kind of, how can I say, I don't know, union concern,
Okay.
That is where I'm like, okay, I don't know that thing. Is it a union problem? Is it a legislation problem? So do they allow me to do that in Germany, for instance?
I understand.
I don't know.
Okay.
So it would be interesting to hear you.
Okay.
But anyways,
thank you.
And everyone, sorry, I took a lot of time, but I hope it was
not worry, bringing in a good deal of a challenge, it seems. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a common challenge. I'll think about it. Thank you for the message.
Please go ahead, Rade, from Microtica. Introduce yourself. Maybe introduce a bit about what you guys do at Microtica. And gosh, we have 15 more minutes. This is I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Rade from Microtica. We're building a B2B SaaS platform for cloud infrastructure engineers, basically to build an infrastructure and share that infrastructure with developers,
Okay.
to enable them to provision environments and deploy application in a self-service manner. All of that without having to be an expert in a cloud space. So infrastructure engineers building something which is complex on the infrastructure level and give that to developers to be able to, with few clicks, deploy basically that infrastructure. So Florin, you said problem worth mentioning, worth solving basically. So on top of your head in a fintech, based on your experience, what could be the most common problem that teams have from technology perspective, especially if that is on the cloud infrastructure level and automation of the software delivery process? What could be that problem that the teams are currently facing, and it's worth solving actually?
Yeah, I don't have a straightforward answer for that, because I don't recollect to have a discussion about this lately, and I have to check with the IPO team, with the team from the production and so on. What I know is that, for example, if you look at the banks, cloud is not an easy subject, because they work mostly with private cloud, with internalized solutions and so on. We don't like very much the public solutions, even if sometimes from the engineering point of view, or some solutions could be cheaper or faster if we use Amazon or something else. And here and there you could see something, but we don't use. So practically we stay a lot on the on-prem installations, because of data security and so on. Therefore, all this situation is containerized, is strict in production or infrastructure and production department. I'm not sure what are their problems related strictly to this, but you have my email address. I put it here, and if we could carry on the discussion, and I would check with them. As I mentioned before, my job is also, I know what the company does, what the people need, but when I don't, I ask them, guys, I have this situation. How can we make things here to work, or do you have something and so on? So I'm going to check and see if there is something there. Definitely they have a history there, like many other business lines, but I don't know if they have something here open and ready to be discussed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that. And I have a very quick follow-up question. Do you see is it something that it's usual and common to be on premises, or you're seeing a trend where new fintech startups especially go to the cloud instead of choosing?
Unfortunately, this is an issue. This is an issue, I would say, when you work with big companies right now, because most of the solutions of the fintechs are developed in cloud for fair reasons, I would say. But this is one friction, one major friction, especially when you work with banks, maybe not with all kind of industries, because if you go in energy or telco or something else, they are more open to have this kind of connection, exchange of messages, data, and so on. But in banks, the regulations are really strict, and it's not only related to what a local bank wants, but it's also about the national bank, because the banking system is highly regulated also locally. And as far as I can tell you, we do only on-prem installations. So even if when we are talking about fintechs, practically this is a knockout criteria, meaning if you can't do a on-prem installation, it's not going to be done.
Yeah, got it.
This is the situation right now. I don't know how it's going to be in 2 or 3 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. very helpful.
Thanks for bringing that up, Rade. I think it's still in the chat section, Florin's address, and I can put it in Slack as well. I saw you, Ioana. You want to take over?
Yeah, I would have one question related to partnerships with banks, traditional or neobanks. So just a bit of context of what I'm doing. I'm the CEO at Convi, and we are an investment platform for alternative assets, such as luxury watches, fine wine, art in the future. And of course, the customers of certain banks could overlap with the customer profile of our customers. And the natural way of thinking of B2B when it comes to investment platforms like ours is ideally, could we integrate into a bank or partner with the bank, multiple banks in the future, in order to provide our service. And then the natural question is, what type of partnership would actually be, say, a bank would even think of doing with us when we're at a small stage. So just for context, we just soft launched today, and we are going to have, let's say, a couple hundreds, 100K of assets under management by the end of the year. But of course, it's very little compared to the scale banks work at. So how could we like leverage whatever we have in order to maybe gather supplies?
Yeah. It depends what kind of partnership you are looking for, because you could use this kind of relationship in many ways. For example, you could use access to the bank's customers. Okay, that would mean a kind of partnership when you have a loyalty program or something like this, and when somebody else's product could be open, could be public to the customers from a bank's portfolio. If you
Yeah. So
exactly.
Just for context, there's multiple ways to tackle this, but the easiest to implement would be somehow an affiliate partnership strategy, where the bank gets a certain commission for each sale done through the platform. And of course, this can start with just a code that the customers get through a flyer and evolve into a full-fledged integration where people can just order directly through a bank, like on Convi, like invest on a third-party app. But of course, a bank would never go and take that IT workforce that they so much need for a small company. So would maybe something like an affiliate partnership be interesting for a bank, or you think we'd have to wait and gather more, say, more demand on our platform in order to prove we can do it?
The easy answer is more demand, easier to negotiate. But you could try to have a discussion, and I would say you should look for people like from premium customers, wealth management, this kind of segments, if you are looking for that kind of customers. And there are banks in Romania which are strong on this segment. Not all of them, not all the banks, even they have millions of customers, have a clear business value proposition for niche segments of customers. There are banks which are doing this better and for longer term. Talking about premium and wealth management portfolio. You also could have, talking about affiliate, about the card management managers and directors, because there they match merchants and offers and any kind of value with credit card or with cards. So there are this is this kind of situation when it could put together their customers with their product, which could be a debit card or credit card, even better, with some sort of niche or retailer or something of value which could be accessed by them. It's like those loyalty or content programs.
Or cashback?
or cashback if there are banks which are doing this. That's why the tools, let's say, not everyone is doing cashback, not everyone is doing premium customers, but there, if you look at the top 5, 6 banks, that's why it's important to know a little bit about the banks and their services, products, and so on. But most of them do have something because, for example, the credit card is very strong in Romania. Romania is a heavy credit card market. And you have this kind of managers which knows how to make the deals with the retailers, with the SMEs and so on. And they are looking for this kind of deals on the market. Now, if they are going to picking up you or not, this is definitely part of what you are going to offer and how they see their customers. But a discussion definitely you could do.
Do you have suggestions on who I could try to reach out to?
In my site, it is, I believe, head of the cards, Ioana Pârvu. I'm going to write here.
I took a note already. Thank you.
Okay.
But I don't want to take up the conversation. But yeah, if you could maybe suggest some names that I could reach out to, would be very interesting. Because
he's the head of cards and also runs the loyalty program, the merchants program, and so on, which she has there. Okay, so she I think she's a good person, and yeah, I think you could reach also other banks and other people there. This is what I would do in your place. Even if I work for a bank, in your place, I would reach out to banks which, as I said, they are strong on credit card and they have loyalty programs. And I believe if you look at the top 5, all of them are okay.
Yeah, thank you.
We're minutes away from actually closing this session. I don't know exactly when did this happen.
Yeah.
And I would take the chance of the last minutes, at least this last minutes scheduled in everyone's calendars, to share some last thoughts. If you want, Florin. We've seen one of the points was the way of working within any company of these incumbents. We could have referred to your experience, but we've seen grassroots. How is this collaboration actually working with people from within the companies being the points of contact and the ones that do warm intros with parts of their companies that could actually benefit from discussions like that. So I would leave the floor to you again and to the founders for any last thoughts coming up from the session today, and any follow-ups or references or links that you want to share, and anything whatsoever, and we can provide that back to the Slack workspace with all the founders as well as with the recording of the session. So feel free to jump in. Closing the session before we thank you, Florin.
I would say just a couple of things. First of all, you could reach to me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there. It's one of my knowledge source. It's not about finding a job. It's about learning. And LinkedIn right now, it's a great source of learning, at least for me, besides reading. And so you can get in contact with me. And if I don't know something which I have or I don't have, I could tell you whom I think could help you on the market. And the second thing is that, as I mentioned before, and also Ilya, I think also mentioned, is that there are two worlds: is the startup, fintechs, and so on, and is the incumbents or the big companies. And making those connections between these worlds of this kind of companies is not easy, because on either part, sometimes you don't have the people which understands the other part language. So basically, many times there is no translator there. They are speaking different languages, have different rules, some have different objectives, and so on. So having people inside fintechs which understand how the market works, what's the competition, how the big companies are working, how the decision is making there, it's equally important, like the big banks or the big companies having people with knowledge about the fintechs, about the new trend, about a new way of doing things. So this is a common point for the both type of companies. And the last point, personally, I am more optimistic that the fintechs and startups could easier learn how the regulations, the technology in big companies, or the big companies are working, than the big companies are going to be more agile. For them, it's going to take longer time to adapt than to the fintechs. So for that, it's a clear point right now. So they are bigger, and they are going to spend more time and money to become more agile and to level the field with the fintechs, than the fintechs would learn what's about GDPR, what's about MiFID, what's about cloud, and so on, and how the companies are using data protection, security, and so on. So I'm more optimistic that you are going to learn this language faster than the banks.
All right. So the full flush.
Yeah.
The full
But
flush.
we are in
Please,
the way,
please.
you know, we are learning too, but at a slower pace.
This means indirectly that there is this openness for the companies to actually provide startups and founders and this ecosystem of new ventures with the knowledge in their industries. Now we speak about banking because it's very at hand for you, but probably this happens across the industries. Sooner than actually the companies to become more and more startups. Please, exactly. Ioana, I think I interrupted.
My thoughts on this is that it's not true. Regulation is never a friend for small companies, and without a lot of capital, I mean, Convi is regulated business, and we had a lot of struggles, and in banking is just as, it's much worse than what we had to go through. So we have to recognize that new startups breaking into fintech is not easy. It's been getting easier because there's now neobanks providing open banking solutions, but it doesn't mean that there's no trust issues, and it's easy to break into these markets as a new startup. And big companies will always say lobby for more regulation because it kills out competition, and I think this should be recognized.
Yeah, I guess this happens as well, depending on how companies see you as a potential partner or the one that should not be in the competition landscape anytime sooner. So make friends, make friends, not foes, as fast as possible. All right. Anyone else wants to chip in to the last moments of today's session? Thanks again, Florin, for sharing so many things. Definitely not all, and some of them will go into private meetings that you could take, and we're happy to see that this is a follow-up to this session as well. So before we say goodbye, if anyone wants to jump in, if not, we say thank you again, and we'll meet tomorrow. There is another Q&A coming up. There are one-on-one meetings that we can take care of. There are many other intros and meetings that you can do for yourself with the people that you met, and we'll meet again sometime soon, and definitely with Horia from BRD in the next meetings and in the last phases of Spotlight. Thanks again and enjoy the evening.
Thank you. Thank you all. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you. Bye-bye.